Thank you guys for joining. I am going to add in Nancy. All right. Awesome. Let's see. Hey,
Hey, are you Victoria?
I am. How are you?
I'm good. How's my audio?
It's awesome, actually.
Okay,
How's mine doing?
good. Really good. I
Awesome.
have my headset on, which looks a little creepy, but what are you
No,
gonna do?
it's fine, actually. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, hey everyone, I'm Victoria McHenry. I'm the VP of Sales and Business Development with Nannocare, and I am here with the lovely Nancy Jensen of the Swing Shift. So,
Hello.
thanks everybody for joining us today. We really just want to bring some light. Thank you.
Thanks.
We really just want to bring some light to, how everything's changing in the career landscape. And even prior to this, there's been a lot of changes, you know, as women and even men out there, we sometimes want to change industries, or we want to take a different direction. And I know that personally from experience, because I started off in hotels and then I worked in the liquor industry. And then from there, now I'm with Nannocare, and this is just like the perfect fit for me. And ever since we started, we've really just owned in on what, I guess really just what women need. And I really love what the Swing Shift is doing. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and where.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for having us. This
Yeah.
what the Swing Shift is we're the destination for women in career transition. And Sarah Denwald, my business partner, and I started the company about 3 years ago. We both, for different reasons, had decided that we were going to take some different paths in their career. My background was in software marketing, right? So I worked in
Oh,
market research, right? So give me
okay.
a number, I'll crunch it. I love it.
Right.
But I took a break to take care of my kids. When it was time to come back, it's hard to get back in, and it's hard to change gears. And for Sarah, she was working but wanted to do something a little different because her kids were little. And so for us, we said, hey, there seems like there's a lot of women out there who are changing roles and careers. And it turns out 45% of American women do this. And so
Wow.
that, yeah. And so that's why we started the Swing Shift. And so we started with in-person and online programming. And now, of course, with the pandemic, we've made a, a very rapid and effective pivot to online.
Yes. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. So, can you tell me a little bit about, like, for instance, how did you specifically address the gap in your career when you guys took time off and going back into the workforce? Because I know that a lot of times there are those
Yes.
questions of, oh, you weren't working for a couple of years, and it's not necessarily bad, but it's hard to sometimes say, I want to take time off for my children, because
Yes.
unfortunately sometimes it's frowned upon by people. They're like, oh, what? So,
And you've hit the nail on the head, right? Many up until 2 years, most employers we find are okay with it, but more than that, the sensitivity is as much on the candidates or the applicant side as it is on the hiring manager. And what we found is you want to have a very crisp pitch. So in my case, I would say I took a 5 year break to take care of my young children and my elderly parents. Now
uh-huh.
I'm
Right.
ready to get back into the workforce using my product management and market research skills. And it is
Awesome.
super fast, and it's maybe 6 seconds. So you got
Wow.
to be really crisp.
You do. And I feel like too, like you said, it's how you say it and the confidence that comes across, because
Yes.
maybe you were going to school, or maybe even you were working on a passion project. And so that shows
Yes.
that you're still in the workforce. It's just not necessarily for another company or being paid, or,
Right.
something that they might see as actual experience.
Right. And that we talk about that is, a lot of people, like almost 3/4 of women, when they take a break, do some sort of volunteer or passion project or community
Right.
work. We talk
Yes.
about that as pro bono consulting.
I love it. Oh, that's a great way to put
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So
There's
I'm
your
I'm
tip for the
always doing
day.
pro bono.
Yeah, well, because you're lending your skills and your capabilities to a given project, and you're not necessarily making money in terms of a financial transaction, but you're lending expertise and skills, and you're gaining some
Absolutely.
too, right? Some work
Yes.
experience.
And then I feel like as well, so I'd like to volunteer too. And I think you get to learn different skill set, like you said, or different roles. And
Absolutely.
you're really, good support system for the company that you're volunteering with, because it could be admin or it could be something more hands-on.
Absolutely. Like when I was on break, I volunteered for Girls on the Run, and
Oh,
which is a fantastic organization. It takes girls grades 3 to 5, and now they've got a middle school program, and they teach them all kinds of life skills using running as the catalyst.
oh, that's
I
awesome.
met so many people. I've made friends and professional contacts. I learned how to fundraise.
Yeah.
That's not something I ever thought I would do.
Right. And I love it because it really just goes to show too that, you're a person outside of just a role or responsibility, or, you're coming into this
Right.
position. So it shows that, and it shows that you can kind of juggle more than one thing at a time. So
Well, yeah,
multitasking.
yeah, oh yeah, multitasking. Yeah, most women are very effective at that.
Yes. So what do you feel like now is going to be the most beneficial things for women or men or even people entering the job market, and how to kind of perfect even online interviews or phone interviews, or sometimes they have those weird ones where you call in and you kind of pre-record your answers. How do you think
Oh
is the best
yeah,
way to do that?
the there's two things: research and practice. The
Yes.
benefit of having information so widely available right now is that you can use that to your advantage. So if you know you're talking to a company about a particular role, you can research the industry, you can research the role, you can research the people that you're talking to so that
Right.
you're ready, right? And you can have all that information prepped ahead of time. And what it does is it lessens the variables when you have the conversation. So that's the first thing, is really research and prepare. The second thing, practice, right? We
Right.
all have video conferencing capabilities now. And we strongly recommend this at the Swing Shift. Practice with a friend, practice with somebody who lives in your house.
Right.
You want to see what you look like and how you sound. I am from
Yes.
Boston originally. And so sometimes I'll record myself, particularly on those pre-recorded answers. And
Uh-huh.
I'll listen to it and think, oh yeah, the letter R. Yeah.
Where is it? Where'd it go? No.
Where did that letter go? Yeah, so research everything. And some people go, "Oh, well, isn't that kind of stalkery, looking up the
No.
person?" No, absolutely not. They expect you to. That's what LinkedIn is all about, right?
Right. Right. It is. And I think too, just to practice and, like you said, to kind of perfect your answers, or sometimes you might be actually too long-winded and you don't answer the question and you go around it.
That's right.
That happens too. So it's always
Mhm.
good to practice. And
Yeah, practice is, it's the most effective thing that you can do. And also sometimes, they will catch you unaware, right? And so then
right.
you have to give yourself a second to compose yourself, take a deep breath, and then give them your best answer.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
what about researching the businesses? So
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of information widely available. What if you feel like you're good for a role, but you don't really understand the company?
Oh, so there's so much information on the company, and there's a couple of ways to go at it. First, and does it take a little time? Sorry, my headset's
Oh,
falling
it's
out.
okay.
Does it take a little time to do this? Yeah, it does. But the first thing is go to the company website and read the About Us, because that will tell you so much about what the company cares about, how they talk about themselves, where they position themselves in the market. So take a few minutes to do that. The
Yes.
second thing is you want to go up. There's a bunch of external websites that talk about the company, like are they a good employer? How
Right.
much do they pay? And so, for instance, from the insider's view,
Oh,
Glassdoor.com
I love
is a,
Glassdoor.
me too. And the thing I like about Glassdoor is it's the inside line, right? These are
Yes.
and you have to throw out the super raves, and you have to throw out the super diss, right? You've got to take that middle ground view.
Right.
And that, but it also gives you a very, very accurate view of what are people inside that company thinking about that company. And the other place that I really like is a company called Payscale.
Oh,
And
okay.
oh yeah, Payscale's the bomb, because what they do is they get information from HR departments and then they report it back out. So you can go in and say, well, how much, if you're going to be an account director in the Valley, right?
Right.
For a tech software, a tech firm, how much do they pay? And they'll give you the range and they'll say, well, if you're coming in, entry level, right out of college, you're going to make $55,000 a year. On the other hand, if you're somebody like me who's a little more experienced, I may be at mid or upper end of the range and able to command way more money. So, and there's a ton of information, out there. Those are just three, but there's somebody, Monica Salita's on here saying Blind App is another good source of real life work
Oh,
info. Yeah,
yeah,
great,
guys, chime
great.
in.
Yep, great. That's a great source. Salary.com.
Okay.
There's Comparably, which is down from Santa Monica, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Those are all, and what you want to do is look at several of these places so that you can triangulate on the data
Right.
points. So,
Right. And
and I was going to say the other place, look in LinkedIn. Look who who works there, and ask
yes,
them.
networking for sure.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel? I know a lot of times, a lot of companies now are more transparent, but you'll go into the interview, everything's going great,
Right.
wonderful, and then they ask the question, which we're talking about, what is your salary range? What do you expect? I know
Right.
a good way to approach it is to say, I know for this role in this area, the range is X to X, but what if they're like, oh, well, that's not within, our budget. How do you come back to that? What would you say?
That's a great question because many people face that. What you do, you want to Aikido it a little bit and say, well, tell me what the range for this role is. Now,
Yes.
presumably you've done your research, and so you already
Right.
know more or less what they're going to pay. You also need to know when you're walking in, again, do your research and know what your floor is, right?
Right.
And why are you taking this job? Are you taking the job because you need a job? And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with saying, dang, I need to make some money. Okay,
Yes.
right? But what's the lowest amount that you'll go in for, right? And so let's say you're walking in and your floor is, $75,000. And they say, well, our grade goes from 50 to about 70. You can say, I am at the top of your range. And then you
Well,
have that conversation, right?
right.
The fear is that they'll come back and say, oh no, well, we're not a match. Well, okay. You better to know that up front than
Very
to
true.
go through the whole interview cycle and get an offer and say, oh, well, this is like half of what I expected,
Yes. Yes.
It's
And then
better to know
also,
up front.
and then the benefits. Sometimes there's benefits that will outweigh the actual monetary aspect of it too. So it's always good to ask
Absolutely.
for that as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, when you're going into an interview situation, you want to have a cursory conversation walking in and saying, well, what's the range? What's the range for this job? But then, because you want to make sure you're not wasting their time and they're not wasting your time. But then
Yeah.
don't talk about money anymore. Go in,
Right.
interview, blow them away, right? When they make you an offer, that's when you say, okay, so let's talk money. How much is my base? How much is the bonus? What are the benefits? The benefits have monetary value. For
They
example,
do.
healthcare, right?
Yes.
That could be another, like, if let's say it's a $75,000 job, healthcare benefits might be another $25,000. Now, you don't get
Exactly.
that in money, but you're not paying that out of pocket. And if you're
Yep.
working now and paying that, boy, that's a great benefit.
It
Do
is.
they
And
give
then,
you parking? Do they give
oh,
you, a Metro Pass? Whatever it is.
right.
Right.
Yes. And then sometimes even those perks really outweigh the monetary value because your health, you can't put a price on that.
No,
And
absolutely
then it
not.
does show that they really care about you too. That's how I feel. It's kind of like a
Right.
give and take situation.
Yes. And having said that, ask for the money,
Yes.
right? You
Don't be afraid
have
to ask.
No, oh no, you have to ask. They won't give it to you unless you ask, right?
Right.
And research shows that when women ask for more, and there's a whole way to do it, that on average they get about 5% more than their male peer, but they have to
Good.
ask. I know. Get it. Go get that money.
Yes. Well, how about, like, for instance, if you're changing totally different industries and then they come
Right.
back to you with, well, you used to work in retail and yes, that's sales, but that's not, beverages. How do you counteract
Right.
that?
So, and I think that what you're really talking about is two issues. One, which is when you're working in one industry, I think retail is an excellent example. When
Yes.
you've worked in one industry and you have these great customer service skills, how do you then pivot and transfer to a new industry, right? And what
Yes.
you need to do is think a little bit about what are the transferable skills so that you're bringing to this new employer that they're going to value. So in retail, you understand customer service, you understand
Yes.
supply chain, you understand inventory, right?
Right.
That's something that you could say, and Nannocare works in medtech and femtech. That's something
Right.
that's directly applicable, right? Those are things,
Yes.
those are skills that a prospective employer are going to value. You do need to take a minute and think about what's in it for them, right? When you're talking to an employer, what's in it for them, right? That what are they looking at you for and saying, oh, that gal might be a great candidate because she's got great customer service, she understands inventory, she understands the whole back end supply chain. But you have to put it in their terms, right? So
Yes.
the other thing that I want to make sure I hit on is that when you're looking to shift, right, whether it's a role or industry, you want to do it one step at a time, right? Many
Okay.
times we hear women say, I have a friend who just did this. She worked in business development at a software company for many, many years, and she took a complete right-hand turn. She went back to school. She got her teaching certificate, and she's going to start teaching high school math next month, right?
Wow. That's good for
She,
her.
it's a huge change for her. And she
Big
said
change.
she did it in two steps, right?
Okay.
First, she did some volunteering, and she
Okay.
tried out like mentoring and then tutoring high school students to make sure she'd want to work with them.
Right.
And then she took the course while she was still working. So you always want to have one foot in something that you are an expert at, and then one foot in something that is going to be new to you and that's going to help you broaden and expand your skill set.
Wow, that's very smart. And then what about resumes? So when you
Mm-hmm.
are trying to, I, there's there should be like different resumes for different roles that you can't just send out the same resume to every company. You can't
No.
say send out the same and introduction. Do people still put objectives on the top of their resumes?
No, no, no.
Okay.
And I mean, people do.
Right. They probably
um,
shouldn't.
well, that the days of having one static resume are long gone. And,
Right.
here's the beauty of software. I mean, you can tell I'm from a software background. You can cut and paste that resume. It's really easy. And what we suggest in the consultants and, coaches that we work with recommend is that you customize your resume for every job you apply for. Right.
Wow.
And so what you want to do is look at the job description, look at the keywords and the descriptors that are used in the job description, and make sure that your resume reflects that. Right.
Absolutely.
And does it take a little bit of time? Yes, it does. Do you want the job? You
Right.
have to
It's an
do it.
investment.
It totally is. It's an investment in yourself and your future. And I
Yes.
do think, for what it's worth, that your resume needs to be good enough, right? People, hiring managers and recruiters look at it for like 10 seconds, which is horrible because everybody's like hyper invested in their resume. I have in mine. And it
Right.
galls me sometimes to go, well, they look at it for 10 seconds. But that's the reality. They want to look at it and say, does this candidate have enough of what we're looking for so that we want to bring them forward? And so that's what you want to do. LinkedIn, in some ways, is more important.
Okay. So make
Yeah.
sure your LinkedIn is good. Make sure your
Yeah.
photos are professional.
Yes, yes, yes. Get it. And you can have this is the beauty of current technology. Everybody's phone has a really high resolution camera on it. You can have a friend or somebody in your house, right? You can even use, a selfie stick, or
Right.
just, use the timer on your phone. You can get a nice looking photo just from your phone, and then you can crop it and post it up there. But
Right.
your vacation photo, your photo with your dog, your photo with your kids, your photo with your
Right.
partner. No,
No, not a good look.
not for when you're looking for a
Not
job.
for that. Right.
No,
And
no.
then what about any creative ways as well to kind of reach out to a company if you're really interested in it and you're switching
Right.
industries because maybe they're only looking for someone with 5 to 10 years experience in the
Right.
XYZ sector.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of ways to go about that. I mentioned LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an incredibly potent tool. So the first thing you want to do is go and look and see who do you know that works there,
Okay.
right? And look on. So if I'm looking at Nannocare, I go to LinkedIn, I type Nannocare, I see what are my connections there, and I go, oh, I know Victoria. I'm going to message her and
Right.
say, hey, Victoria, I'm so stoked about the idea of working in femtech. I love what you guys are doing. I see that there's a job open. Could we talk?
Right.
That's it, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, that there's industry groups, and they're both in person and online. And
Wow.
what I would do is, if there's a company that I'm really interested in working at, look to see what industry groups they sponsor at or
Mm-hmm.
speak at, and then go to those
Oh,
events, whether
yes.
they're online or in person. Everything's online right now.
Right.
It is totally acceptable to go to an online meeting. The speaker, says their piece. You can follow up with them afterwards and say, I loved your remarks. I would love to talk with you more. I understand, you've got some openings. Here's why I'd be great for the job. Skill 1, skill 2, skill 3. That's it.
Yes. That's awesome. How do you feel about sometimes they'll say, you know what, you're not a good fit for this position, but maybe you would fit in this position. How do you think you should approach that?
Say yes, right?
Okay.
Here's the thing. You think, everybody looks at themselves and says, oh, I'm really interested in doing, a marketing role. But your prospective employer is going to look at you and say, well, if you've got a background in customer service, they'll say, we have this thing called the client success manager,
Uh-huh.
and we really need somebody with pristine customer service skills and really understands how to work with people, right?
Right.
We would love to have you come in and talk about that. Again, keep in mind, what is it that you're bringing in the door that people are going to care about, right? And if your long-term goal, I'll use this as an example, if your long-term goal is to get into marketing, right?
Right.
But they want you as a client success manager. Take that client success manager,
Mhm.
go in, do that job, kill it, right? Like
Yes.
9 to 18 months. It's just like do the very, very best job you ever can. And along the way, get to know the people in marketing roles, and then I mean, this sounds so calculated, but you have to kind of insert
Yeah,
yourself into those things, into those
you do.
activities. But say to the marketing people, hey, if you're ever going to talk to a customer, I'd love to come along. I can lend my customer support expertise. And, I can tell you, as someone who's gone on lots of client and customer calls,
Right.
it was always so great to have somebody from support there, because they knew the product backwards, forwards, upside
Oh,
down,
yes. And then
right?
it shows good camaraderie too, and you
Absolutely.
really get to learn, and maybe you actually don't want to do that role in the ending. You never know.
You never know, but I think you also have to have a plan. The days of, oh, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be put on a management track and
Right.
funneled up the chain, those days are over,
Yeah,
right? I'm
that
not
doesn't
sure that.
happen anymore.
I mean, and I'm much older than you are. Those were going by the boards when I was starting, right? People were just like, you're a gun for hire, come in, you know, work like crazy, we'll pay you, right? And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and I think you do have to have that in mind, right?
Right.
That your employer, you have to chart your course with your employer, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And then make sure that it's the course that you want to be on.
Right.
So,
And what about for people with shorter job histories? How do you think they should address that?
oh, you mean like coming right out of college, or maybe only having 1 or 2 years
Yes.
of work experience?
Yes.
The good part about those roles is, it's like a pyramid in many companies, right? There's a lot of roles here. I'm going to show you. There's a lot of roles at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And so, yes, there's a lot of people competing for them. But you also want to go in and know that, at a base level or in an entry level role, there is nothing wrong with coming in at an entry level role, right? You can
Right.
come in, and what you can do is negotiate all kinds of things. Money is only one thing, as you mentioned earlier. Um,
Right.
and if you need to do it to get the experience, do it, but put a timeline on it.
Okay.
right? I have a gal, and she actually took a break for, I think it was 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah, she worked for 10 years, had some kids, took a break. And when she went back, she didn't go to an entry level role. She took one step back from where she was,
Okay.
and she just worked really hard for 3 months at a company that she didn't love,
Mm-hmm.
but she needed to get her foot in the door. And so she just went in, worked very, very, very hard. And after 3 months, the company said, we would like to elevate you into this other role because it's clear that you have way more skills than you're using. And that's a very smart strategy. And I think for anybody going in with 1 or 2 years experience, that's the right way to go. Take the job, work as hard as you can.
Yes. And then now I feel like the job market's going to be so flooded. What other trends
Right.
do you see or have you been seeing and or predict for the next, I would say, year or so?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all watching the free fall in the market, right? And it's crazy because the stock market is actually doing very, very well.
Wow.
And so, yeah, but there's, we all know retail, restaurants, right? Travel, cultural experiences, that and experience economy workers are all, being
Struggling.
furloughed or laid off. Having said that, there are other industries that are picking up the slack. E-commerce is huge. Anybody who's got a retail background should be looking at e-commerce, in my opinion, because you
Wow.
understand the physical manifestation of what's happening online, right?
Yes.
um, Warehousing, and that's supply chain. It's everything from like stocking units to delivery, right?
Okay.
And are these glamorous jobs? Yes and no. It depends on
Right.
is money glamorous? Yeah,
Kinda. I
right,
like
kind
green.
of. And health tech, healthcare certainly, and it has its challenges, of course, and it's a very vulnerable industry to be in right now. But health
Yes.
technology is very, very hot right now. Telehealth, we've seen so many gains in that, and across the boards, right?
Right.
Everything from a company like Geneve that works with peri and menopausal women to Talkspace and Headspace, places that are doing mental health consults online. These are big industries. And so what again, you want to think about, what are your transferable skills, and then
Right.
how do you bring them to the new economy. Somebody mentioned this to me the other day. Anybody who's got like an event management background or an experience management background
Yes.
should be working with state and city and federal agencies, because they know how to manage logistics. And as we're working to
Right.
get food and tests and over the time vaccines, and how those get disseminated in a public way, there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge opportunity there.
Yes, there is
Yeah.
definitely. And then what do you think are your core strengths for the swing shift, and how, anybody who's watching or knows someone who might be out of work, or, really just wants to make a change or needs to
Right.
even up their, step it up a little, level
Yeah.
up.
Well, from our perspective, we offer a weekly Hangout Habits call. It's every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And
Awesome.
what we do is we have speakers who come in and they talk about. This week we had Chelsea Cooper, who talked about LinkedIn for your job search. We've got women who have come from Tribute Mentor, the Mentor application. It's a startup
Wow.
that's there. It's here to match women who need mentors with women who want to mentor them.
Okay.
We just had Colleen O'Brien from M12 Ventures come in and talk about what's next, right? M12 Ventures is
Right.
Microsoft's venture capital arm. And she talked about, well, here's what's hiring, and here's what's hot, and here's how you could perhaps talk about transferable skills. So our upcoming hangouts include Keita Williams from Successfully talking about time management and accountability.
Awesome.
Heather Glynn from Blueprint is talking resumes. I'm really excited about this one. We've got the Senior VP of Client Services from Simplicity Consulting is going to talk about, well, what's it like to be a consultant or a freelancer? Because I think for
Yes.
many people, they're going to need to pick those jobs up. And she's going to walk you through, well, what's it like going from a full-time job to a consulting job? I mean,
Right.
all three of them I'm excited about, but that one in
Awesome.
particular, because I think there's many people who will benefit from that.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
definitely great. And then you touched on a point that I wanted to address. How do you, for the entry levels or anything of that nature, juniors, how do you find a mentor, or how do you even go about that?
Right. There's a couple of different ways. One, go look at things like Tribute Mentoring. That's a fantastic community, and they'll match you. Right. And now it is a kind of technology based
Okay.
organization. That's one way to go. The second is if there's an industry that you're looking to break into, go to that industry group in your area. So down in LA, right, if there's women in femtech, I know that there are monthly meetings. Go to the monthly meeting and go get to know the membership director, and tell them and say, I'm looking for somebody to, give me a hand as I figure out my next steps. They'll match you. Right.
Wow.
And the third thing is to think about who you know in your network. And, if you have like an aunt, or maybe you've got a college, like your alumni networks are grehave for that too. If you've got somebody from, like I went to Bates in Maine, of all places,
Okay.
right? But let's say I have a school friend who works in the chocolate industry. And if I wanted to get in there, I would totally call her up and say, Jean, you run Seattle Chocolates. How did you get into this? And I'm thinking about going into food tech. What do you think? They're going to give you a friendly conversation because you share this common background.
Yes. And then even when you're looking for jobs, just ask around, right? Just
Absolutely.
anybody you know.
Yeah. And, this is something, somebody had said to me, when's the best time to look? Every day is the best time to look. And
Yes.
for many women, what we find is that they want to wait until everything is just right, that their LinkedIn is just right, and their resume is just right. It's never going to be just right, right?
No.
The moment you think you want to start looking, start telling people.
Awesome.
So again, I'll use this as an example. If I wanted to get into femtech, I would tell you, and I would tell them, hey, I'm thinking of getting into femtech, and I bring market research and software launch and entrepreneurial skills. How could I get into that?
Right.
Right. And I think that those are things, you have to just have a very crisp pitch. You want to build a relationship. It's not a transactional thing. You're not going in and saying, hey, can I have an interview? Do you have a job? You have to get to know each other.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hire me now.
I'll start yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just overwhelmed. I love really what the Swing Shift is doing, and how you're helping address all of the different needs, especially in these changing times.
Yeah.
What other tips and tricks might you have that we can even just, brush up on in your current role? Let's say you do want a promotion, or you want a raise. How should you address that?
Oh, well, first of all, if you want a promotion or a raise, the first thing you do is you go in and you talk to your direct manager and tell them and say, I'm looking to move to the next level. Or as they say in gaming, time to level up.
Yeah.
And tell them, what do I need to do? And then listen to what they say, right? And because your manager, and even the worst managers who might mumble mouth or go, oh, I don't know if that's time, I don't know if we're ready to promote you. They're telling you something. You may not like what they tell you.
Right.
But the only way you're going to know is to ask. So that's the first way, is to go in and say, I'm ready to move to the next level. Let's chart my course.
Ooh,
right? And have them tell you what are the next steps, right? In terms of going in for a raise, you want to, I mentioned this earlier, doing research.
Yes.
You want to do your research. If you know somebody in your internal HR department, see if you can get the pay band for the job that you're in, and find out where do you fall within the pay band.
Okay.
And then how are you executing against that? And then use the external sites as well. Because you want to go in armed for the situation and say, I'm your number one performer. Here are the metrics. I'm rated 4.5 out of 5 with all of our clients. I brought in the most number of sales. You have to go in and, you can't just go in and go, I want to make more money, or the boys make more than me. No, you have to go in and tell them why.
Right. You have to have solid
Give them the data.
Yes. The data always backs it up. Numbers don't lie.
That's
Results don't lie. And confidence doesn't lie either.
No, right. And then, so you want to go in and, again, research in our experience has shown that when you go in and ask, 75% of the time, you're going to get something.
That's good.
So it's worth going in and asking. And even when you get the mumbly mouth, well, I don't think you're ready. Okay, that's a good message too, because what that means is, get that, update your headshot, brush up your resi and LinkedIn, and start looking, start talking to people.
Yes. And
Yep.
then one of my biggest questions, I know that everybody's probably wondering, how do people who are used to working in the office transition to, 100% work at home and manage their time effectively, and or how do they address that when, with their new roles that they might want to get into?
Right. Time management, particularly online, has proven to be very, very challenging, particularly for those of us who are working from home and also educating children. I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old, and all of a sudden I am now an educator as well as a business person.
You have another
Um,
role.
I do, and I'm not very good at it.
It's okay.
It's fact. Keita Williams, who's talking next Thursday, is very, very good at this. You really have to get rigorous about your schedule and
Yes.
say, from this time to this time, I'm doing my work. From this time to this time, I'm doing schoolwork with the kids. From this time to this time, I'm back to my regular work, right? And I
Yes.
also think you need to reprioritize,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's going to get done. And
Yes.
this public health crisis and this time of pandemic, it will change things as they go forward. I don't know that we'll ever go back to the way things were before, maybe over time, but for
Right.
the next 6, 12, 24 months, things are going to be different. And so I think people need to be realistic about what can I realistically do, right?
Yes.
I mean, I can tell you my house is a disaster. You're looking at the one neat corner of it.
It looks great.
Oh, well, thank you. It's the only corner that's cleaned up. So I do, if you're worrying or, thinking, oh, I don't even know how to manage this yet, and there's all kinds of ways to do it. Like if the Cubby 7 Habits is the way to go, look at that. I particularly like Keita's approach because she's very focused on accountability.
Yes, you
So,
have to keep yourself
does that
accountable.
answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And then too, I think just don't beat yourself up, if you're
Right.
working from home and if you don't get everything done, or like you said, if you don't have time to do the dishes or vacuum the floor, it's okay. You're not
Right.
going anywhere.
No, well, and
Literally.
I will say, speaking for myself, I'm a queen of the checklist, right?
Hmm.
And I don't get everything done every day, but it's very easy to just fall into the miasma of, oh, I'm home and there's the dog and there are the kids and here's my partner and here's the neighborhood, and I think I'll just go wander around,
Right.
particularly when you're looking for a job, or if you're looking to, you're looking to transition from an office to working at home.
Yes.
You need to be the structure, right? And you need to put those constructs in place. And if that's not your skill set, it can be challenging. I think it's perfectly okay to ask your peers and colleagues, like if you are working with somebody and you know that they're really good at this, ask them how they
Right.
do it.
Yes. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help.
It's totally okay to ask for help. And I think something that you said a minute ago is really true. You've got to give yourself a break. I mean, it's so easy to just hard charge. And
Yes.
I say this as someone who gets up at 5 to work and then go running and then do homeschool. It's very easy to just go, no, I'm going to drive forward. No, you have to give yourself a break.
Right.
This is an unusual time. The other thing, though, is I read this in the New York Times the other day, only 40% of jobs in the U.S. are really able to be done remotely. That over
Wow.
time, yeah. So over time, most people will be going back to face-to-face interactions, but they will be
Yes.
very different than how they are now.
So different. And
Yep.
it's good though. I mean, everybody's being so adaptable, and I feel like, it's building resilience and character in everyone. It's a
I agree.
crazy time. It's
Yep.
definitely something different, but
Yeah. But, I think this sounds very trite. It is okay to ask for help, right? If
it
you are
is.
getting
It is.
overwhelmed with, the homeschooling or with work, or
Hmm.
just if the general, whatever is happening in the general world is kind of getting you down a little bit, it's okay to
Yes.
say, I'm taking 5, I'm walking away, and then I will come
Right.
back, take a deep breath. And again, it's about time management and reprioritization. What's important?
Yes. Exactly. And then don't feel
right?
bad to take a day off or to ask for a day
No,
off. A lot of times they'll say, "Oh, well, you're working from home. You're always home." It's like, "But I'm working. It's you're
oh
still
yes,
working, you know." And also,
yes,
like you said, time management. Set that time to say at 5 o'clock, I'm done.
yep,
That's it. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your emails because
no,
you will get in that habit of keep going, 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 and you'll burn yourself out. And
absolutely,
you really have to take care of yourself, take care of your mental, take care of your physical, and like you
yep,
say, get up early, go for that run. Who cares?
right,
Yeah, you'll be home all day, but it feels good to get up and get that physical activity, whatever
yes,
it may be for you, yoga, Pilates, going
right,
for a run or a walk with the dog. So
yes,
I
yeah,
really think it's so awesome, and
yeah.
we love what you're doing. Tell us
Thank
how we
you.
can find out about you, and if there's
Yep.
anything we can do or the listeners and viewers can do to support you or anything like
Oh,
that. Let us know.
well, you can find us online at theswingshift.co, not com, .co. We have a couple of ways to engage. As I mentioned, right now we have our Hangout Habits, and they're free, right? These are free
Yes.
weekly calls. We do have coaches and consultants that can work with you if you're like, oh man, I just need somebody to help me scrub up my tools, help me with my pitch, help me with interview. We have people that can work with you.
Okay.
In the fall, we are introducing an e-learning series called Back to Business. And
Awesome.
yeah, and it's predicated on our flagship program, the Career Catalyst. We have a publisher, HarperCollins, and so we'll be. I know.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
just
still kind of like,
HarperCollins.
whoa. Yeah, it's
That's so
crazy.
great.
It is. It is. It's thrilling and terrifying in the same breath. But we'll be introducing our e-learning series in the fall. And
Wow.
so that will be our career catalyst. And so it's everything from the block and tackle issues like, oh, how do I do a resume? How do I build a LinkedIn, to personal brand,
Sure.
to pitch, to,
Yes.
how do you interview? How do I negotiate? So we have this whole series, and it'll be interactive. We're really excited about it. And then in January, because everybody makes their professional career changes in January, we do have a book that will accompany the e-learning called Back to Business.
That's
And
so
so,
awesome.
yeah, so, right now, talk to us live. We're online, and we've got our weekly hangout habits. In the fall, we'll have
Perfect.
e-learning, and then in the winter, we'll have book. And then we'll see.
Yes, I'm sure there's much more to come.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Oh,
TheSwingShift.co. Check her out. This is Nancy Jensen.
thank you. And I
Yes.
told Victoria, I'm like, I just ordered some NanoCare stuff for my household. So I'm
Yes.
like, yay, I'm
Good.
getting a
We
package.
love that. We appreciate the support so much.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're just doing all we can to really just enhance women's lives and
Yep.
bring the best quality product at an affordable price. So just because, you don't shop at Whole Foods or Sprouts, but we're going to be
Right.
in there soon.
Awesome.
Yes, but check us out. Check out the Swing Shift, but we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And look, it's been so great to talk with you.
You too. You too. You're a gem, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye,
All right.
everybody. And
Yeah, bye everybody. Make
TGIF.
sure.
Woo!
Yes. Bye
Okay,
now.